Nick Parker. Have you seen one of the Wallace and Gromit's? I think it's The Wrong Trousers, where the final bit at the end is the dog is on the train and he's laying the tracks out just in front of the train. That's how this presentation is in my head now. So I worked for the writer for a long time. The spoiler is, no, it's not. So we can all relax, okay? Fine. But we don't have to make a faff about it. And so one of the main things that happened to me really is I've worked at the writer for about 10 years, and now I do my own thing. And this might well have happened to you if you've left an agency or a big corporation or a big company, and then you start doing your own thing, and you're in that first meeting where you're talking to a client, and they ask you the question that you've answered 1,000 times before, like, isn't tone of voice all bullshit? Or like, what are the benefits of having a content marketing strategy? And you suddenly realize you open your mouth and you go to say the thing you've always said, and you're not sure whether that's really what you believe. It's just it's broadly speaking the thing that you're into, and you were probably part of the meetings where those ideas were put together. But is this my spiel? Do I believe in this thing? And so this was great to have from Andy the chance to share with you my midlife crisis, which is, what do I really think? And if I could think about this slightly differently, how might it come out? So just a little bit more about where this has all come from for me. As it said in the blurb, the very first thing I was paid to write was a comic strip for Viz. Now, I used to mention this in workshops because it was a sort of cheap way of getting a bit of kudos. Increasingly, what happens is I said, I used to write for Viz, and this blank look comes across people's faces, and then eventually some millennial will say, yeah, I think my dad used to read that. So if you don't know Viz, it was funny and rude and very British. And the reason I'm sort of telling you this is, so I wrote and drew a cartoon strip, and I sent it to them, and they said they would publish it. This was marvellous. And then they sent me a contract to sign. And I had to sign the contract before they pay me and before they published the thing. And there was a little box in the contract. It was called the green form. It was white. And it said, it was about VAT. It said, if you agree to the offer below, please sign one copy of this agreement and return it to us at the address above. Keep the other in a safe place for your own reference. If you're VAT registered, please enclose a VAT invoice when returning the form. If you aren't, you don't want to be, I can tell you. It's a bigger pain in the arse than piles. And I remember thinking, are they allowed to say that? Like, isn't this like something legal? And then like, oh, of course, right, well, they're Viz. You know, they're Viz in the magazine, they're Viz on the telly, they're Viz in the ads, and they're even Viz in this tiny bit of small print. Only like 20 people a year would probably read this. And this was 1996. I wasn't a professional writer. I didn't really know about writing for businesses. I didn't even know what an agency was, actually, till I was nearly 30. And so I didn't think, oh, what an incredibly distinctive and consistent tone of voice they have. But that's what it is. And it also got me thinking, I think I want that job. Because actually it's the little bits, the unseen bits of writing, not the headline, but the tiny, what's now called a microcopy, because it's a real thing now. Those bits often are the bits that really stick with us or have little bits of magic about them, and I sort of want that job. And isn't that interesting? So that was sort of going on in my head, and this habit actually of spotting the tiny bits of writing where really something interesting is going on is I think I try and keep this to myself. And then the other day I was in quite a posh farm shop with my son, not buying sausages because they were really expensive. And he went, Dad, come over here. And there was a freezer cabinet thing full of really posh dog food. And he went, look at the flavours. Chicken, tripe and turkey, lamb, chicken and lamb, beef, tripe, puppy. He said, Dad, that's an inconsistent naming strategy. My work here is done. So I'm having a sort of reimagining what's going on in my life and what do I believe. And partly I realised one of the things that really grates is the phrase tone of voice. There isn't really a good way of talking about that thing which is capturing the personality of a brand that doesn't sound a bit wanky. Like the whole thing with tone of voice, of course, is it's not all about tone, is it? It's about other stuff. It's about what you have to say. It's about all the other bits of your brand. If you just have tone with no content, what you get is that. Am I the... And I thought this was really interesting. I don't know if you, so after Brexit and take back control, and then when the election was announced and they came out with strong and stable, I thought, oh shit, they've done it again. That's really good. Strong and stable. It alliterates. It feels true. Doesn't say anything, but we're just going to swallow it because it's so much more effective. And then they had no content. Tory party had no content, and then they very quickly started demonstrating things that were neither strong nor stable. And then she can't stop. Brexit means Brexit. Imaginative and creative. Boris is Boris. It's a great tone of voice, but it's only tone. So, what are you? Head of verbal identity. Yeah, does that make you cringe a bit as well? Yeah. Anyone else? I call myself a language strategist on my website. That makes me feel a little bit sick as well. But at least it's got the word strategy in it. So, I was slightly having a moment of, oh God, what am I? What do I call myself? Like, how do we get over this tone of voice? And then there's also, I think one of the great things about, so I used to be, when I was a joke writer, like 20 of us would get into a room for 2 days for a show called Weekending. Which is an amazing show, because the show lasted for 20 minutes, and then the credits lasted for 10 minutes, as they'd read out the 300 writers it had taken to write essentially quite a lame collection of jokes. All you need to do now is turn on Twitter for 20 seconds, and people who aren't writers are saying things that are funnier and smarter and sharper and truer and more real than any of us can make up sitting at our desks, sucking our pencils, thinking about how do I turn this into well-crafted copy. This is one that was on Twitter yesterday, which I just love this. Come in and try the worst salad one woman on TripAdvisor ever had in her life. There's so much brilliant stuff going on here. This is a really absolutely cast iron grip of understanding of what marketing is. And also, it's got a great voice to it. It totally kicks the shit out of TripAdvisor. I just think it's fantastic. And so, obviously, oh crap, maybe it's not AI that's going to steal our jobs. Maybe it's just people will write their own stuff. They're fine without us. But I know this isn't actually true because of something that happened to me at St Pancras Station. So I'd also got a call to be in Paris. Maybe I was the copywriter who fucked the job up and you were... So I was at St Pancras, I was late, I was running for my train, I got to the bottom of an escalator and there was this sign. And a thing happened in my head. Partly, I'm a writer, so obviously I have to stop and read every last word, but also, whoa, read left to right, because that's what we do in English. But maybe red means danger, so you might as well read that bit first. And I was completely paralysed. As I stood there trying to take it all in, a woman who was also running ran into the back of me, and we both fell over. The sign that was designed to prevent an accident caused an accident. But this is what went through my head. Oh, thank God for that. I'm going to be in work. Just take a message and cock it up. That's a really simple... I think what happened here is the brief was, we need a sign about getting, tourists with heavy bags off the escalators. Then word gets round in the department. Oh, there's a sign going up. I've got a metric this quarter about reducing mobile phone use. Can I put my message on yours? And then all of a sudden, they fill all this. Then, in my head, the story of this is also, we've got a gap now. Let's just put some random advice in. Nearly there. Oh, fuck it. So the same thing again. Slightly differently. Neither of these things can you see if you're facing in the wrong direction. But hooray, we're going to be in work as copywriters because this happens. It happens in big organizations. It happens when people try and write by committee. It happens when people can't think about what their reader really wants or needs and all of that stuff because it's hard. Great. So the benefits of tone of voice. I think there are a few things, actually, that it turned out when I was asked, isn't it all bullshit? No, actually, when an organization, a brand gets together, it's what Ben & Jerry's doing. It's what we heard about all this morning. When your culture and your brand is distilled into a way of writing, it does all sorts of things. The first is that it raises that conversation about language to a more strategic level. Have you seen this? I bloody love this. Yeah, good, cheap, fast. I put this in all my proposals. If you've not seen it, it's a sort of little strategic decision maker. Okay, so all clients want it good, cheap, and fast. Pick two. You can have it good and cheap, but it's going to take me ages. You can have it good and fast. It's going to cost you a lot. You can have it cheap and fast. It'll be shit. You want all three? That's where the unicorns live. Having a tone of voice means that you're having more of this sort of conversation about, well, actually, what can we get the words to do? What is it that's going on here? That's always really interesting. There's also, I realise, this is part of the reason it's so important, especially for big organisations, especially if they have to brief a lot of agencies or a lot of copywriters. This is why it's really helpful to have a tone of voice document. Do you remember who this is? Boaty McBoatface. If you remember the story, this is before Brexit and before Trump, where the most serious thing we had to worry about as a nation was the name of a boat. God, those heady days. So the Natural Environmental Research Council got 200 million quid for a new boat. Excellent. This is an artist's impression of what the boat will look like when it's built. They're still building it. And in a stroke of PR genius / suicide, they asked the nation to help them name it. It is no coincidence that it was a copywriter who came up with the name Boaty McBoatface. Because it is A, genius. It sounds simple and friendly, but it's completely new. It's like double stupid McBoatface. But God, if you're the research council, you are screwed. These people might save us from climate change. They're doing pioneering research, but they didn't give a brief. If they'd have said, help us name our boat, but we need something that is in line with our brand or our tone of voice. It needs to embody the pioneering research that we do, our commitment to change, to innovation, to experimentation. If they'd have done all that, that would have been great. But if you don't give a copywriter a brief, we'll go for funny. Because funny is like a self-imposed brief, isn't it? If I can get a laugh, I'll know I've got a reaction. If I give you 20 puns, it looks like, well, there's a day's work. He's really had to rinse that. So actually, a brand that has a really meaningful set of tone of voice guidelines is keeping us all on track. And brands that really hold you to that, that is great. And that is partly because, I'll show you this. So obviously, you know what they did? And so the boat ended up being called the Sir Richard Attenborough. It was a much better idea. And they called the little automatic UAV, unmanned automatic vehicle. They called that Boaty McBoatface. That's what it looks like. They are missing a trick because I did not know what that looked like till I Googled it this morning. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? They should sell those. I'd buy one of those. All of it put together, like it's your culture. It's like that raising a strategic conversation. It's a way of getting discretionary effort out of us all, trying a bit harder, thinking a bit harder. Because I've had a slide for everything, I thought I need a slide for discretionary effort. I'm really sorry about this. This is what came up on Google when I searched discretionary effort. They're really pleased about all the effort they put into their teeth. So back to my midlife crisis. So I'm sort of reassessing, like, do I really want to still keep doing this thing, this tone of voice? Is that what I want to lead all these conversations with? I write loads of different stuff. I run lots of workshops, but it all starts with tone of voice. Now I work with lots and lots of really interesting clients. Actually, what happened to the writer was, because the writer got bigger and bigger, was the clients got bigger and bigger. And so you go to a lot of meetings. I reckon I spent about a third of my time saying, no, you can't sound like Innocent Drinks. You make ground-to-air ballistic missiles. It's not going to be the right tone of voice for you. I spent about a third of my time running workshops, interviewing stakeholders, getting people together to talk about what their brand is and what the brand meant and what that might look like, and could they put some words to define what sort of voice they'd want. I spent months doing this, flying all over the world, telepresence with Dubai and Singapore, and we'd put it all together, and eventually the presentation would look something like this. Nick, we've really taken on board what you've said. We've searched for the words that we think sum up the essence of our brand, and we think we're human and honest, as opposed to those inhuman, dishonest fuckers that we're trying to distance ourselves from. Right. So, which is fine, actually. There are some brands for whom that is a stretch, but there are some brands for whom that is probably right, but it wasn't particularly sort of challenging. And then I'd probably then I'd also spend about a third of my time working with interesting brands, and then about a third of my time, which if you're good at maths will realise we're about 133% by now, another third of my time telling people to shut the fuck up about storytelling. That's a whole different workshop. And then a beautiful thing happened. I was in Costa Coffee and I had an epiphany. On the wall was this sign. Baristas don't just make coffee, they handcraft it. No, they don't. If that was more honest, it would say, our coffee is reliably a bit less shit than Starbucks. But that's fine. Again, that's what we want from a big, quite bland brand like Costa. It's like, you go in, the coffee's reliably all right. It's fairly cheap, you get it fairly quickly. If I want to spend 20 minutes watching a hipster perform latte art and then charging me £9 for it, I'll go around the corners to the independent place, which I do sometimes, but I don't want to miss my train. And that's great in its own right. But here is a big, bland brand, not really knowing who they are, looking around and thinking, what's everyone else sounding like? What's big at the moment? That artisan, small batch, hand-filtered. We'll have a bit of that. Never rings true when a big brand tries to sound like a small brand. But also, as I stopped having that moment, oh, great, I could take the piss out of that. There's probably a blog in it. I thought, that is quite interesting, because for the last 20 years or so, that wouldn't have sounded like that. That would have been, our lovely baristas will make your lovely coffee for you just the way you love it. It would have been a sort of Innocent Drinks, chatty, friendly pastiche. And now, this moment has come in the evolution of tone of voice, where the default tone of voice is now this sort of serious, po-faced artisan thing. If we don't know what we'll sound like a hipster with a sleeve tattoo and an obsession with detail. So I thought that was quite interesting. So we're at this moment of change. So all this was going on in my head. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So I can not have that conversation about innocent drinks anymore. I'm working with more interesting brands and less of that human and honest stuff. And as this was going around in my head, a friend of mine called Gilmar called me up. He runs a design agency. And he said, so Gilmar is German. He said he's got a Swiss client. And he said, how can I help explain the different kinds of tones of voice in the simplest way possible? So I told him all this stuff about brands and talk about Ben & Jerry's, talk about culture and personality. And he went, Nick, I'm German. I'm talking to a Swiss banking client. I need a process. So I went, I'll get back to you. So I went away and I thought about all the different jobs I've been working on and all the brands who really nail something distinctive and interesting. I was like, actually, how many tones of voice are there? Like, that was a sort of joke at the writer. Where's Roshni? There's a couple of ex-writer people in. Like, maybe there are only 3 tones of voice in the world. Oh, God, we'll all be out of work. Maybe how many are there? Let's see if I could give him, boil it down, think about this really differently, a really simple way of explaining it. So I said to him, there are 10 tones of voice. And I said, I'll break it down for you, and then you can explain that to your client, and you can tell me how that goes. And what's really exciting about this is literally that you're the only audience in the world who might be remotely interested in what those 10 tones of voice are. And also you're going, yeah, I bet there aren't. I bet there's 11. So I thought I'd tell you, because you can't go anywhere. There's a break soon, and this would be great feedback for me. I reckon they're these. So what I was looking for was... don't take photos of it. It's a work in progress. These aren't brand personalities. These aren't sector descriptions. These are, at heart, what group of techniques come together into distinctive voices. And I thought I'd go through them in excruciating detail until you're desperate to leave the room. I'll do it very quickly. Do you want to hear them? Hilarious. So here we go. Number 1, playful children. Obviously, Ben & Jerry's absolutely smashed this. It's also what people think of as innocent's tone of voice, I think. Actually, innocent aren't just that sort of playful, friendly, chatty. They also have something else going on as well. We'll talk about that a bit later. It's also the one that goes most badly wrong most of the time. Here's Jolly Hog sausages being playful, but sort of without the content to quite back it up. Ollie, Max and Joss. Once upon a time, there were 3 jolly brothers, a rugby player, a shipbroker and a cabinet maker. The 3 brothers loved eating meat, especially pork. So they decided to create their own porky delights, which would one day become the best and most delicious in the whole world, and boom, the Jolly Hog was born. We're really proud of the sausages we created. It's been a jolly journey from making them in Ollie's kitchen to having them on supermarket shelves. It's nearly there. It is the playful child, but it feels like loved eating meat. Feels like there's a story there they're not quite bringing out. It's sort of expected in food, I think. It gets really interesting when it happens in categories where you aren't expecting it. Here's Kalula Airlines. I'm sure you've all seen this. If you haven't seen it, just take a moment. Nose cone, radar antenna, and a really big dish in here. Front door, a door is always open, unless we're at 41,000 feet. Co-captain, the other pilot is on the PA system. Cargo door, fuel tank, can't see what that's it. Just great. Playful child applied in a different category does something really interesting. I knew this had happened. What was next? The simplifiers. Not just plain English, not just writing a little bit simplistically, but usually taking an insight and really pushing simple. I think somebody who nails this really well are help remedies. These people God, these are brilliant. Help, I have a blister. Help, I can't sleep. Help, I have a headache. Help, I've cut myself. Help, I have an aching body. Help, I have allergies. Features, not benefits. No, benefits, not features. In fact, skin tone is not skin tone for most people. It's just an odd combo of pink and brown. Rather than taking a guess at what skin tone you might be, we've left our bandages white. But again, that doesn't work without having proper ideas and proper content and proper insights, but then just stepping back and being really simple. So I think they're a bunch. What have we got next? Full biscuits. So full biscuits is a word from a novel called, whose name escapes me, by a writer whose name also escapes me. Because that's what happens when I'm standing in front of a large group of people. And it's a word that the main protagonist in the novel made up with the express intention of getting it adopted by other people. It was his way of talking about idiots. But that sort of brands who have a commitment to the pleasure of the written word and of unexpected language, quite often making stuff up. Here is Hendrick's gin. So not just a little bit playful, but full-on mad. A tendril of steam, a cup of tea, a man in a spinning hat, a gin cocktail, a floating cucumber, a giggling rose, a hat atop a spinning man. We invite you to dream with us, to gather in impossible places, to defy gravity, to dissolve into butterflies, to reapparate, sipping cocktails on llamas. May we fall in love 1,000 times in 100 seconds. May we find glory in our darkest nightmares. May we journey to places that existed not a moment ago. May we be awake to our dreams. Yes. Doesn't really explain itself. Haven't a fucking clue what it's talking about. Sounds amazing. Who have we got next? Rebels. So, challenger brands, people picking a fight, the voice of a manifesto of wanting change, or of just not caring and doing your own thing. Like lots of brands sort of want this space. Again, if you do it really well, you have to have the content to back it up. Do you know the adventurists who do like proper frightening adventure holidays, like the Mongol Rally? And here's how they talk about what they do. We're the adventurers fighting to make the world less boring. Our planet used to slap us about the face cheeks with iron fists of adventure every day. Maps had edges to walk off. Men feared the monsters that swam the seas. Entire civilizations lay unknown. But now the entire surface of the Earth has been scanned by satellites and shoveled into your mobile phone, tagged with twattery about which restaurant serves the best mocha latte frapper shite. Getting lost and in trouble is no longer an occupational hazard of walking to the market. It is an art form, one we strive to perfect. Yes, I'll sign up for possibly killing myself because your website sounded amazing. And then also, like every great brand, they commit to it even when the messages get difficult. Warning, you may have guessed that these are genuinely dangerous things to do. The website is written in a light-hearted fashion, but you cannot overestimate the risks involved in taking part in these adventures. Your chances of being seriously injured or dying as a result of taking part are high. Individuals who have taken part in the past have been permanently disfigured, seriously disabled, or lost their life. These are not holidays. These are adventures, and so, by their very nature, extremely risky. You really are putting both your health and life at risk. That's the whole point. Amazing. Ron Seals. People who tell it really straight. People who are really down to earth. Does exactly what it says on the tin. If you want quick drying wood stain that lasts 5 years, buy Ron Seal 5-year quick drying wood stain. Again, there's a sort of, if you're going to buy a tractor maybe, or a JCB, that would be the tone of voice you'd expect. There's lots of people in that space have a very down-to-earth tone of voice. Again, it gets really interesting when it's in unexpected places. Here's NetApp, the tech people who run the server farms where the internet lives. This is from their expenses policy. We're a frugal company, but don't show up dog-tired just to save a few bucks. Usually common sense. That is the best bit of HR writing I have ever seen. But a great example of Ron Seal tone of voice. What's next? Big friendly giants. These are the human and honest people who, sometimes they embrace that. Sometimes they fight against it and want to be distinctive. I think, who's the quote? The Hollywood lyricist who said, don't try to be different, just try to be good. Good is different enough. When this is done really nicely, it is a beautiful thing. Here's Skype. Skype is for doing things together when you're apart. Skype's text, voice, and video make it simple to share experiences with the people that matter to you, wherever they are. With Skype, you can share a story, celebrate a birthday, learn a language, hold a meeting, work with colleagues. It's just about anything you need to do together every day. It's free to start using Skype. To speak, see, and instant message other people on Skype, for example. You can even try out group video with the latest version of Skype. If you pay a little, you can do more things in more ways with more people. I think it's a great bit of writing. It's really clear, it's really warm, really friendly, it's almost invisible. You don't really read that and think, God, Skype have got a great tone of voice. They're just getting out the way. Done well, fantastic. Purposeful. This is sort of quite often the B2B equivalent, I think, of Big Friendly Giants. People are just getting on. There's things to do, and we're going to do them. This is from Palantir, again, a US tech firm. We design technology to help institutions protect liberty. We go where we're needed the most. We're engineers on a mission. We seek out the most critical problems we can find, the ones that pose threats not only to many of the world's most important institutions, but to the people they serve as well. We seek out hard problems at places that matter. We solve them by shipping products that work today. They have to because the stakes are real. People rely on our products to do the most important work, which means they rely on us to build things the right way. Yes, God, brilliant. Not messing around. It's also quite often the tone of voice. The shit hits the fan tone of voice. I think this is really interesting. Like, this gives me heart as a writer. When things are really serious, what you get is just black words on a white page in a simple typeface. There's no like, oh, look over here, there's a spinning logo. Like, because you need to know we really have thought about this. Like, that, of course, is why the words really matter. So I won't read you all that. They're really sorry about the horse meat. Actually, what was interesting about this, there were three, I don't know if you remember, there were 3 ads in this series. The first one was very straight like this, but didn't mention the words horse meat, so it got a lot of flack. This one, if you take the time, if you read it, Google it, it's absolutely brilliant. Like, it's really straight, really honest, you know. Here's our promise, we'll find out exactly what happened, and when we do, we'll come back and tell you. And we'll work harder than ever with all our suppliers to make sure this never happens again. I've worked with Tesco, that's true. And then they did a third ad, which they gave to an agency. And it came out all copywriting. This is it. We mean it. Let's go. And again, like actually that, just straight and purposeful, not trying to be anything else, worked really well. We're nearly there. Energizers. People who just crank up the pace. This is from Booking.com. I just worked with them. I thought this was really interesting. Is anyone from Booking here? Bloody hell, they're all here. So you've probably seen this before. I thought this was fantastic as a sort of idea that they were interested in. Because, like, well, most travel writing is about from the azure beaches and the blue skies to the warmth of the sun-drenched palm trees. There's a little bit of everything. Like, this kind of, like, it's all about place, and it's quite singy-songy, and, you know, Booking are a massive, massive brand. You know, they can't possibly know who they're talking to. But there's something about the energy of travel seemed like a really interesting idea for them. We love big family holidays and small cozy getaways. We love road trips and mini breaks. We love tourist stops and secret spots and going around the world and going back again next year. We love planning it, winging it, wish you were hearing it. We love the people, the energy, the diversity. Travel, we love all of it. I said, fab. Like, commit to the energy of travel. And there are lots of brands that do that. I think that feels like a really distinctive type of voice. Where are we? Number 9, storytellers, like proper storytellers. Like the letters that we heard, really powerful. You tell those stories, like, just how can you not be moved by that? Brands, I think, you know, a brand who does it brilliantly just in their marketing is Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels, by all accounts, wasn't even a very nice man, but they've made him a sort of superhero. Where's this one here? Like, Mr. Jack Daniels was no saint, but he did start something original. Also, Lynchburg, Tennessee is a character. Like, I don't think actually Lynchburg, Tennessee is more of a character than Jack Daniels himself. It's the place where Jack Daniels was made, but you can't buy Jack Daniels there because it was a dry town. So there we have storytellers. And the last one is impersonators. Like, so basically, I've grouped everybody who sort of copies a style. Whether that's a sort of very hipsterish artisan sounding like a Victorian gentleman thing, or like Soap and Glory are brilliant at like taking the essence of a sort of 1950s housewifey retro voice and then mixing it up with their own thing. So there's that, just copy a literary style or a style in history, that gives you another voice as well. So we've got 10. And then what happens is like, well, you start mixing them together, don't you? Don't worry, I'm not going to go through all possible combinations. So Brewdog, amazing, are rebels, but also like they're fool biscuits. They're mainly rebels, but when they name their products, these are amazing. Vagabond Pale Ale, this is Lager. Punk IPA, Dead Pony Pale Ale. 5 a.m. Red Ale. They haven't got their alcohol-free lagers called Nanny State. Like, that is a real joy in just, those words are a pleasure to say out loud. Here's Anthony, who doing sort of a really nice mix-up of kind of purposeful with the, so, what's this? Body scrub, blue ski kilt body scrub. Objective, don't get called for unnecessary roughness. Strategy, sea salt exfoliates, sea kelp extract nourishes, aloe vera gel soothes. What have we got over here? Objective, stop the suffering, extinguish the fire, cool it, man. So just again, like swapping categories, mixing up a couple of voices. Let's see how near the end we are. Look, now we're onto the handwritten scribbled page. Swiss Bank doing, what's this? This is like Simplifier and Ron Seal. Like, you'd take the rest of the year off if you'd written that, wouldn't you? And the people with the best tone of voice in the entire universe, because they're sort of chatty and playful, but actually they're really a rebel, because it's basically, fuck you the category, fuck you the customers, fuck you our product, stupid little biscuits. We've had complaints that our cups are embarrassing to hold. That's why we're giving away a free disguise with every millionth coffee. Like, I'm not, this is so... relentlessly taking the piss out of the whole idea of having a tone of voice and being a brand and caring about your customers. Fantastic. Let's see what happens. Oh, so then, yeah, Gilmar liked this. And then he said, yeah, and how can I help them work out which of these voices suits them best? And I said, what do you want? Tarot cards? Oh, tarot cards. So I made a set of cards with lots of words, and the words matched up with the different sort of voices, and so they could play around with the cards. I took out all the human and honest and all the words you never want to hear as a writer because they're completely meaningless. And so they could use those to sort of mess around and find their voice. He said it worked very well. So I'm slightly thinking, well, a couple of things really. You never really know that you know something until you can explain it to a German to explain to a Swiss banker, which is slightly less snappy than think what you'd say to your gran, but slightly more demanding in a way. There's also, well, these came out of this thing with cards. I made these cards because I found that playing with cards was great. I thought, I'm going to make myself a pack of cards with an inspirational message on. And every day, I take a different card out of the box, and it will really inspire me. Turned out I only wanted one message, so I put it on all the cards. And the weird thing is, if you use them every day and you take one out of the box, even though you know what it's going to say already, it really works. Get the fuck on with it. So, I guess, I'm just going to quickly pitch you. Are the 10 really? Does it matter? Like, I suddenly feel like that the wine scientists with her wheel of flavours. If any of you have read Middlemarch, the character at the start, Casabon, with his key to all mythologies. Oh God, maybe that's me. Maybe this is a doomed attempt. I'd be really interested to know what you think, if this would be useful. I thought I might turn that into a sort of package of things that I can sell to Gilmar so he doesn't get all that advice for free. So you can sign up on my website, so I can keep in touch with you and talk about this. If you want to hear me rant about Donald Trump and Brexit, follow me on Twitter. I'm probably way over time, and I don't really have anything else to say. Thank you very much.